Hello everybody, welcome to Euronews After Hours here at COP29 in Baku in Azerbaijan. My name's Jeremy Wilks. I present Climate Now on Euronews. I'm here with our correspondents Giorgia, Orlandi and Jane Witherspoon. We've been following today's events. We want to tell you what's been happening, our feeling. Obviously, we'll be breaking down some of what's actually happened here in terms of decisions, but also important information about the snack rating here. Are the drinks good? Are the snacks good? Etc. Quickly on that one, how's the coffee here in Baku?
I'd say the coffee is really good.
And you're Italian?
I'm Italian, yeah, although I had an Americano, actually a couple of Americanos. But yeah, I mean, it's really good.
Jane, coffee?
I haven't had a coffee, but you're Italian as well, but did you try the pizza? Well, I had to walk about 2 miles earlier to get the team a snack, but it's okay.
It was very
We're all
appreciated.
fed
Thank you for that.
and watered and raring to go.
Yeah. Giorgia, tell us about what's been going on.
Okay, good question, actually. Today was the opening ceremony, so we got the chance to hear from the COP28 president, who actually officially handed over his presidency to Azerbaijan. And it was interesting to see the exchange around the idea of the three presidencies, the Troika joining forces, so COP28, COP29, COP30.
Yep.
And then the COP29 president, of course, made his statement around the idea that he called it like a moment of truth.
It is. It's a moment of deciding, isn't it? I mean, we've had a lot of talk about the fact that, certain headline-grabbing world leaders are here for their own reasons, up to them. What's important is the negotiators, that can be ministers, that can be people from finance ministries or from environment ministries. Some of the people I've been talking to, they're here making their case to make decisions, because there are an awful lot of holes in the Paris Agreement if you read it. There's a lot of stuff that's very vague, and they're just kind of, back then they were kicking things forward. Well, now we're getting to crunch time on some of those things. Article 6, which is basically on carbon markets. We've also got these new collective quantified goals that's impossible to remember. That's basically finance. The amount of money we need to get. Yeah, there we go.
Exactly.
Yeah, the NCQG. That's the thing you need to think about.
Yeah.
Which is basically this very seriously large amount of money that needs to be spent on adaptation as well as mitigation. Where do we see the conversations going on now? What have you heard from the Americans as well? You were at their press conference earlier. What are they saying?
Well, obviously there was a lot of attention on the US and the impact of US elections on climate talks, because obviously nothing that will be negotiated here will be binding for the Trump administration, especially on the US side. So that's also very interesting. So obviously Podesta, the senior advisor, said that yes, of course, we are committed to all these goals, but clearly it feels like the US will withdraw from the Paris Agreement,
really?
And that is going to perhaps push other countries to either contribute more or contribute less, and that's also the question.
That's the tricky one. You don't know. Does it galvanise the rest of the world, or does it allow some people to have an excuse to not do anything? Jane, sorry, we're going to have to share the microphone here. Jane, you have been talking to some business leaders. Tell us a bit about that. Chamber of Commerce, I believe, is that right?
Yeah, I spoke to the John Denton, who's the Secretary General for the International Chamber of Commerce earlier. They've just released a report which has got some startling figures in it, actually, saying that extreme weather conditions have cost over the last 10 years $2 trillion, which is a massive amount of money. And the thing that he was saying is, we're no longer in a position where we're preparing for things to happen. Right. These things are happening now. We need to act now. Yeah. Governments need to come together and do something about it. And I mean, what you were talking there to Giorgia in terms of kind of climate finance, I think that is the general feel that, we talk about the US, we talk about individual countries who have the money, but it's about the global community, finance community coming together. It has to be a collective action to make a difference these days.
Absolutely, yeah. And of course the Paris Agreement only requires countries which were OECD countries in the early 1990s to actually contribute to the 100 billion in financing that was actually meant to happen by 2020, ended up getting done by 2022. Here we are deciding what's going to happen afterwards. When you talk to developing countries that I have on the bus, which is the fun thing about COP, because you meet the world on the bus. I was talking to people from Mozambique yesterday, from Zimbabwe, and they say we need trillions up front. We need serious amounts of money, and there's a return on that investment too. Was he also talking about that isn't just sort of wasted money? You're not just sending it off and you never know what's going to happen to it.
No, and I think the big thing for them is, like you say, you've got these the newer economies, the developing economies. They're the ones that do need this help, and it's keeping track, as you say, where is that money going, making sure it's going to the right place. And I think, like you say, that's the beauty of COP. You have every kind of level of representation here across the board, as you've seen, like through wandering around today, just chatting to people. I know that you've been talking to some interesting people who are pleased to be here and use this as a platform to get across, their perceptions.
Yeah, I've been talking to I've been talking not only to climate scientists but also climate activists, and they're present here, although they're not demonstrating much. They are here and they're making their voices heard in other ways. I was actually talking to them about why don't we see massive climate demonstrations anymore? And they said, well, that's not really needed in Europe anymore. We put that on the agenda. Plans are in place, etc. What they need to do is get into the nitty-gritty of the deals that are getting done and show that fairness is there and kind of justice is in there in the decisions that are taken. One of the activists I was talking to, he's from Ghana in Africa, and he was saying really what they want a lot of the finance to be going towards is education, in order to make sure that the workforce that's doing the energy transition, for example, is a local workforce. They're not bringing in people from elsewhere. Actually, we were talking about education too, weren't we?
Yeah, we were. Actually, the feeling I have is that we need more education on the topic. And so at the beginning, it seemed that these sort of COP was being played down because not many leaders are going to show up. Instead, I think it's never enough, meaning like we need to get more information about the topic. We need to educate younger generation. As journalists, we need to, get more insight about climate change and...
Yeah, literally just the facts about it.
Well, I was going to say there are quite a lot of youth events taking place over the next 2 weeks. There are a lot of, it's not just the main stages and the main plenary halls where the discussions and the closed door discussions, but, there are opportunities for these conversations to take place and bring in the next generation. As you say, it's imperative that they, we talk about who are we doing this for?
Yeah. The Director General of the World Meteorological Organization started her presentation with a little speech about her one-year-old grandson, how she's looking at him and thinking, what's the world that you're going to inherit? So for sure, I think a lot of people who've got children are thinking like that. In terms of the green zone, the other country pavilions and things like that, I haven't really been out much. What's good?
I've had a little wander while you've been scurrying away at your keyboards and working hard and delivering the news to Euronews. And the pavilions area is actually really interesting. They've got some amazing... You're going to be down at the Germany pavilion tomorrow, which is beautifully done up, all wooden, lots of grass, greenery, and not so much protesters, but they were having presentations there this afternoon. We had musicians in the Malaysian pavilion. So there is an opportunity. Obviously, the green zone is an area where the public can come and take part in it.
The green zone, if you don't understand COP language, you've got the blue zone, which is the bit we're in, where you basically have got to be...
really important.
Media person is the minority. The majority are people who are negotiators for countries and delegations from countries. Yeah. So I was having lunch with some Colombians yesterday who work for the Environment Ministry and finding out what's going on with them. And that's how it is in this area, right? This is where the heads of state are. Some kind of Indian guru passing through earlier as well, which caused
someone
quite a stir.
As well is dressed as Santa Claus. I mean,
sustainability clause he calls himself.
A bit early, but is that who it was?
Yes, that's what he calls himself. Yeah. No, but the green zone is kind of the public fun part to go to. Where you can engage with with businesses, but civil society as well. Best COP moment so far for you, Giorgia?
Best COP moment? Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I think probably networking, getting to speak with people, but also interviewing people. Like I did an interview earlier with Copernicus about the latest report and the fact that it's very likely that 2024 is going to be the first year when temperature's going to go above 1.5 for the entire period.
Yep.
And it was actually interesting to talk with the director and exchange a few ideas. So that was actually very interesting.
No, the access you got here is fantastic. Jane, top COP moment?
I think just seeing it come to life. I feel like I've been on the journey with the team here in Azerbaijan for like the last 9 months. I was very fortunate enough in Berlin earlier in the year to do one of Mukhtar Babayev, who is the COP29 president designate, one of his first interviews. So to have those initial conversations and then see him on stage today welcoming the world and taking on the baton from Sultan Al Jaber, who was the previous COP28, which is in the UAE where I'm based. So to have seen that and then follow the story through to where we are now. And, people are putting their money where their mouth is. I know it's only day one, and maybe it's too early to say that, but I think...
I expect some pretty eye-catching announcements in the next sort of 24 hours or so.
Yeah, and it's, they want this to be actionable, and I think they have to. They have to act on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Top COP moment for me so far, apart from the buses, which you've already mentioned.
The pizza?
I think the organisation has overall been excellent, but top COP moment actually for me is just going to downtown Baku, because downtown Baku is really nice. And I wasn't I didn't have anything in my mind about what that would be like.
You haven't even been at the Old Town yet. You're saving that for tomorrow night. I'm hoping we can get
the
dinner.
The district I'm in is pretty cool, honestly. It's
Nizami
great.
is very nice. Nizami
It's
Street.
buzzing. And so that's the top COP bit so far for me, is being able to enjoy downtown Baku. So thanks very much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more tips, information, maybe more information about snacks. Maybe we'll have discovered other interesting things to eat or drink here, and we'll have more information about the climate discussions that are going on. Really try and get some numbers, maybe come up with some figures on the finance. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow.